Hey kids, hope you're all doing well. I have to start by saying I miss each and every one of you. It's kind of crazy doing this online, and it's different. But I do miss each and every one of you. So, yesterday, I posted a question on a family member or a friend or someone who has influenced you. You know what? That's my grandpa. That's Grandpa John. Grandpa John Falco. He was a senior. He was my influence. Grandpa he taught me quite a bit about being the man that I am today. He taught me love, he taught me passion, he taught me never to give up, he taught me perseverance, he taught me quite a bit of things. And yesterday, reading a lot of those papers that you kids wrote, a lot of you reference grandparents, and they are really, really powerful people. And boys and girls, you know, you can't ever forget grandparents. You can't ever forget family. You can't forget people. One of you even wrote about, to kind of surmise it, strangers, people who are not family or friends. People are still capable of influencing. And, being influenced by someone special is pretty powerful. It's going to make you into the person that you will eventually become. It's very important, and you can't forget that. But, I look at all this, and you're probably asking me, what does this have to do with social studies? And it has a lot to do. Over the last couple weeks, we learned about Julius Caesar. Caesar, let's face it, Julius Caesar was a pretty amazing person. He was a pretty important figure in history. And if you look at Italian tradition, Roman tradition, it's very important for the man of the household to pass his leadership skills, his traits, his lineage, his heritage down to a son, down to a male. I know that kind of sounds weird today, but that was something that's pretty important to a lot of families. Passing it down to the male. And Caesar, he just never had a boy. He had daughters. Now I kind of got to stop the story there. Caesar did have a son. His son was Caesar Ion. He was a boy born in Egypt to Cleopatra and Caesar. But this young man was not born as a Roman, and as a result of that, not being born under specific things, he could never be heir to the throne. So, in all theoriness, I guess, if that's a word, he did not have a boy. So, what do you do? Caesar was not a dummy. For he could see the future. He knew if something was to happen to him, that his lineage would be done. So Caesar would look to his grandnephew, a young kid by the name of Octavius or Octavian. This little scrappy kid born September 23, 63 BC in Italy. And he would look upon him as being, well, something special. This child would grow up without a biological father. His biological dad would die at a very young age, and he took to him. I mean, all this kid had to his name was the fact that he was related to Caesar through a grandfather who married a sister of a Roman dictator. I mean, he had nothing. He had nothing. But Caesar would look at him and look at the ambition that he has, and he would look at him as the son he never had. And he put a lot of stock into him, watching him as he grew up, guiding him, influencing him immensely, sending him to school, all this stuff. And you kind of go back to the story that we watched in the last 2 weeks. Caesar was killed by his best friends, the people that he put in position. They killed him because of power. And at that day, when the will was being read by Mark Antony, it was a surprise to everybody that Caesar would name not Mark Antony as his successor, but this young kid that no one really knew about. And, this kid grew up, and he grew up quick, and he would, fulfill the footsteps of his great uncle or his biological father. He would change Rome forever. And, before Octavian can gain the throne, he was forced into many battles. He started with Mark Antony, and they would go after the enemies of the throne, the people who betrayed Caesar, and they would get them all. But he knew that there were going to be people that he had to get, and that whole, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Well, he did that. And he knew that Mark Antony was going to be the final person that was in his way. Because what did Mark Antony want? He wanted power too. And this would eventually go on, and there would be an ongoing issues and hostility, and eventually this would erupt into a civil war. And in 31 BC, the Roman Senate followed Octavian's leadership and direction, and they declared war on Mark Antony as a traitor. Now, at this point, Mark Antony had fled back to Egypt. He knew that his days and times were numbered, so he fled back to Egypt. What you kids didn't see there was Mark Antony was with Cleopatra. The same person that, Caesar once loved. Mark Antony was with Cleopatra, and Octavian sent the Roman armies to Egypt. But before those armies could do anything, and I hate this word, but I'm going to use it in historical standpoint, Mark Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide. And as a result of the death of Mark Antony, Octavian will become the undisputed master of Rome. When this all officially happens and everything settles down, Octavian or Octavius, he's going to change his name, and he's going to change his name to his quote unquote father's name of Caesar, and he's going to be known as Augustus Caesar. And in his time of power, he's going to rule Rome under what's known Pax Romana. Now, Pax Romana means a time of peace. I told you kids that Rome was built on blood and Rome is going to die on blood. That I told you, and I promise you that's what's going to happen. Even though this is a time of peace, there is wars, and there are things that are going on. But in the center of Rome, in the whole Roman Empire, which is now what it is, it's an empire. That's what Augustus is going to be, the first leader of the Roman Empire. It's going to be known as a time of peace or Pax Romana. So you look at Octavius, he had nothing, born with nothing, but he was influenced by a very special person, a person who was, you know, a relative, but a person that he looked up to as a role model, as a teacher, as a leader, as a father, someone who was going to direct him and direct the course of his life. So, boys and girls, I hope you found this interesting. I hope this found you all safe, and I know you're all doing wonderfully and working very, very hard. Again, I miss each and every one of you. Love you all to death. And this is Mr. Falco signing off, and we'll talk soon.